Okay, so this is my first time doing one of these, sharing a message on Facebook. Um, I've thought of a bunch of them. You know how you just home, driving, work, whatever, and you get something, you're like, man, this really helped me. I want to share it, but never just got the nerve to do it. So um, a sister of mine, she went live on Facebook in her bed, red face, crying. So I was like, well, at least my first time don't have to be that. And she knows she is. So I'm just going to share something that I got last night actually in my kitchen. I was making some soup, and somehow the soup ended up all over the kitchen counter, microwave, floor, foot, leg, hand. It was hot. The night before, I had tried to make some, what was I making? Some honey oats soap. Honey oats, no. I didn't do milk, so yeah, just some honey and oat soap. And it just ended up 3 pounds of soap wasted. I still have to do it over. So just some other little things that was like, man, this, I feel off a little bit. I feel something it's not clicking. And last night with that soap, with the soup, I said, okay, God, what is this? And he said, you are not synchronized. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Okay, so we continue to have a dialogue, whatever. Bottom line, the thing that I want to share with you today on my lunch break at work is after elevation. And I wrote it down because, you got to get it right when you're sharing it. After elevation, you need to be calibrated, synchronized, and syncopated. Okay, and that sounds like, oh, those are just fancy words for all saying the same thing. But of course, when you look up the definition, it's not the same thing. And it makes the difference in when you've set a goal and you've reached it, but now you have to function in it. When you start a new job, when you launch out in a new business, or in ministry, promotion, whatever it is, it's like when you go from one level to the next, when you go from one dimension to the next spiritually, naturally, you change jobs, you change career fields, you go from being a single adult to married, you go from married, no kids, married with kids. It's like whatever that transition is, whatever that next level, next place for you, once you reach it, you have to be calibrated, synchronized, and syncopated. So let's just talk about those three words real quick. Okay, so of course I looked up the definition. The definition for calibrated, and I'm reading from my notes, is to ascertain the caliber of. Okay, we'll go back to that. To adjust precisely for a particular function. Example, they have calibrate thermometer. To measure precisely, carefully, and then they have calibrate a dose of medicine, especially to measure against a standard. Synchronize, cause to occur or operate at the same time or rate. Adjust to show the same time as another, And then syncopate, to place accents on beats that are normally unaccented. To shorten a word by omitting sounds or letters from the middle. So I say, okay, God, that's cool. That sounds good and everything, but how does that relate to my life? And I thought about when, let's just say you driving on the road. Every day I drive north on University, west on Griffin Road. When I'm making that turn onto Griffin Road, before I turn, I have to stop. I have to observe traffic, if I can, which a lot of we do subconsciously. What is the speed limit when I go from this street to that street? Once I make that turn, I'm paying attention to the other cars turning with me. Once I get on the street, I'm making sure I'm in the flow of traffic. And that street that I'm turning on, the second street, it doesn't have a lot of light. So I'm bobbing and weaving because I'm dropping my kids off at school to hurry up and get to the office. So then I'm maneuvering different. But before I begin to flow like that, when I first get to that street, I have to get calibrated, which is I need to observe. And a lot of times when you going, full-time job, entrepreneur, kids, wife, husband, whatever it is, we never take that time to stop and get calibrated, to observe what's going on, to see what adjustments we need to make in the natural with our timing, with our habits, what we're watching, what we're reading, who we're spending our time with, our train of thought, what we're spending our time thinking about. Like, the brain don't shut off. You could be working and your mind is always going, but it's like, what are you spending your time thinking? Because that's what you're going to spend your time creating. So that calibration is just that stop. This is what I wanted to go back to. Under calibrate, it says to ascertain the caliber of, and then it has degree of mental capacity or moral quality, degree of excellence or importance of a caliber. So right there in your calibration, you're dealing with your mental capacity. And when you make that transition, when you change, we always talk about revelation. We always talk about going to the next level. But once you get there, it's different. Things the energy, how do I say this? The wavelength, the way things move, the speed at which things happen, it's different. Even though it's still a part of your day-to-day life, it's different. And you have to adjust to move different, which brings us to the synchronization. Now that means you've gotten to the next place, a higher elevation, promotion, whatever it is, your goal, you've reached it, you're there, you're at a new job, you're married, whatever it is, you had this baby, now you got to get synchronized because it was operating before you got there. So what I thought of is double dutch, which when I was a kid I could never do because I ain't had no rhythm, so I could never do it. But every time the girls turning the rope, and before you jump in, you got to get synchronized so that once you get in there, you start jumping, okay? And you jumping and you jumping and you going. But before that, you had to get synchronized. When I had my first son, he was like 2 months early, so he was like tiny, and it was just and I was just drained one day. And then my mama called me and she's like, girl, what's going on? I was like, I can't get nothing done and I can't get no sleep. And she said to me, like, no, you trying to do it all how you was doing it before this baby. She was like, but once you have that baby, when he sleep, you sleep, and when he up, you train him that during this time you over here, and right now I'm washing dishes, or right now I'm washing clothes, or whatever it is that I was doing. But we had to get synchronized, and I was trying to sleep on my time and him sleep on his time, and it just wasn't working. But once we got synchronized, where we were kind of up and sleeping we ain't get synchronized. I got synchronized. And once I was up and down with him, at the time I was a stay-at-home mom, so I didn't have to go into an office, I was able to start maneuvering different in my day. Which after you're synchronized, then you get syncopated. Now this is what I love. Now the example in wherever all the places I looked it up, it speaks of it musically, and then it speaks of it grammar as like a word. So the first thing says to place an accent on beats that are not normally accented. I'm gonna go back to the double dutch. So some girls, they getting your time and they watching the rope, they watching, boom, they in there, bop, 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 bop. Now they synchronize, okay? They calibrated first because they watched. Then they synchronize with the ropes. Then boom, now they in it, they jumping. But once they started jumping with the synchronization, they could syncopate, which means add accent to something that isn't normally accented. Now the normal is doom, 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 but then they start dropping, bouncing, flipping, cartwheeling, doing all kind of stuff. But if they didn't first calibrate and synchronize, then they couldn't syncopate. So that new thing that you saw that nobody could see, if you don't first calibrate and then synchronize, your thing don't fit. Don't fit, then it's out of sync, it's out of time. So then you start tripping over something that when you syncopate, that shortened in the word form, that maybe it's supposed to take 6 months, but the thing that God gave you will cause it to take 4 months or 6 months or 3 days. I mean, you know, whatever it is, you just got to take that time, that at each next place you add the accent where it's not normally accented. Okay. Let me look at my notes. I don't want to miss nothing. Right. So I just want to encourage you that, you know, we've been hearing a lot about going to the next phase, a new dimension, blah, blah. First of all, for me to even be, now I did this video. I don't know for sure that I'm going to post it, but I'm going to try, okay? But we all reach this next level, but we need to be synced in that next level. Like, you can't, at certain altitudes, you can't afford to miss a beat. You cannot afford to be at Mount Everest and then slip on your foot or trip on a rock, because you fall. You got a long way to go. And not too many people, I think, climb Mount Everest more than once, okay? So I just want you to be encouraged that if you're not necessarily dealing with like frustration, but it just seeming like just a little bit off, a little to the left, I want you to just stop daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, and just look at your life and how can you calibrate it. Take a moment and observe and see what's going on. I knew a kid that used to say, watch and observe. You know, that's an inside joke. So take a look. Really take a look. Take a moment. And it's a moment that probably in your life you feel like you don't have, but it's a moment you have to take. And after you've taken that moment, then synchronize. And that means feel the vibe, feel the energy, feel the rhythm, get it, because that's, once you've got it, you can get in there and change it and add your accent, which will oftentimes benefit you. Well, that's what it's for. It's to benefit you once you've been synchronized and syncopated to whatever gift or calling or promotion or life change that you've experienced. So anyway, y'all, bye.